You're listening to Thunderheads, a podcast for Thunder fans by Thunder fans.
All right, welcome to Thunderheads. We're here for your midweek edition. More and more of you checking in on YouTube Live, and we appreciate that. If you would, hit the like and subscribe button. That'd really help us out, right, guys?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Please do that.
All right, I'm Rob Larson. I'm here with Justin Wright. You may know him better as Thunder Tie.
This is worse than the time the raccoon got in the copier.
Anchorman.
Yeah.
That's a good movie.
It is a fantastic movie.
Also-
Smells like Bigfoot's dick.
Oh, wow, he just went straight.
Yeah.
He just went
Just
straight
keep
for
going.
it.
I was just going to...
We're not going to talk about the game. We're just going to do this
gonna
the
do
whole time.
Anchorman.
So as you hear, that's the dark and stormy Jason Lewis.
Yes, sir.
But I do want to say about Anchorman, one of my favorite parts of that movie is when they talk about diversity.
That's literally my favorite part of that movie.
I believe diversity was an old wooden ship used in the Civil
Yeah.
War era.
That's
The hell's diversity?
that's so good.
I love that
Also,
one.
should say we're in Brandon's house. Brandon is not here.
It's very uncomfortable.
I went to the bathroom. Not that I was gonna go poop, but there was no toilet paper. Like the roll was out. I went pee. But there was no toilet paper. Just wanted to mention that kind of courtesy.
Also, you guys, I was here by myself for a while.
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable to just be hanging out in your friend's house without anyone else there.
Yeah,
I've never done that before.
I wonder
I
if they
still
have
feel strange
cameras.
about it.
It's funny because I was just sitting in the driveway listening to the
Yeah, you just left me in here.
Yeah, I was
to
listening,
be
I was listening to
freaked
the
out.
game, man.
What were
It's
you
okay.
eating out there?
Oh, it was just a wrap I got from 7-Eleven.
Oh, okay.
I needed a little snack.
All right, so today we're going to talk about the Thunder's loss to the Rockets.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, we're going to touch on the state of the Thunder. We'll talk about PG's slump, discuss whether or not Billy is in over his head, some optimal scenarios for this Thunder team to actually get wins, and of course, what was all over national media, local media today, Russell Westbrook. But I do want to mention, on the last pod, Brandon had he brought up the fact that one of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting victims was buried in Dwayne Wade's jersey.
Yeah.
So actually today, Wade actually went out to the school. He spoke to the kids, went out there, kind of gave high fives.
Oh, I thought I
Kinda
saw
sat with
something
it.
about that. I didn't know what if it was a certain school or if it was the same one. So that's pretty cool. That
Yeah,
did
so
that.
he actually went out there and like spoke, and it's kind of bringing it back a little bit because there was the whole thing, athletes or basketball players just dribble the ball, you shouldn't get caught up in all this stuff, and
Right.
it's just really cool that he's totally embracing it, like going out of his way, going to the school, talking to the kids, just obviously that's going to sort of bring morale up for them, and I just thought it was really cool for Wade to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
That's a cool move. And like as professional athletes, like the whole like don't use your platform. Absolutely use your platform.
Yeah.
You as a celebrity, you've got a lot of sway on young minds and stuff. And like if they look up to you, like be free to speak your mind. Like let yourself out there. Like one, it's great as a fan to see these players do something like that because it breaks that barrier where a lot of times they're just like, oh, there's some basketball player, I'm never going to beat that person. It is what it is. But for them to do something like that and really reach out to the community that they're a part of, that's huge.
Yeah, it kind of makes everything real. And I mean, the shut up and dribble thing, I don't want to get super into that, but it's just ridiculous. And especially when you're LeBron James, when you're one of the most famous people in the world, use your platform. So anyways.
Yeah, and those kids look up. Obviously, that's so cool for them. Like we look up to these as grown men. We look
Yeah,
up to these
but
people.
if you're a kid and that
those
happens,
kids look up to them. It's just really props to Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so let's get into this Rockets
You
game,
sure?
shall we? We got
Let's
to.
dive in.
I'm sure everybody out there is feeling as bad as we are. People listening, it's tough because the Thunder have been winning, although it was ugly.
Mm-hmm.
They lost to Golden State. They beat some bad teams coming out of the All-Star break. Then you have the Rockets, where it seems like this Thunder team probably not playing as well. It sort of seems like, well, they'll get up for this game. This will be a team that they
Right, exactly.
can actually, that they'll respect and, can really try and kind of get a win. And it was the opposite. Like the Thunder, well, both teams really came out really sloppy, especially the Thunder, though. Turnovers.
Were like the first 6 possessions just mostly
Like
turnovers?
four
something
turnovers
like
or
that.
something like that. It was a ridiculous amount of turnovers. We had talked a lot about how Russ doesn't seem to control games as much anymore. That was again what we saw.
Yeah.
Like you look at Harden, who MVP candidate deservedly this year.
For sure.
You look at Russ, and it's just different. Like not to say that Harden is better than Russ. I mean, there's arguments to be made on both sides of that, but just for this season, for this game,
game particularly, yeah.
you could clearly see the difference. Like and whatever you want to build that up to, if it's Harden clearly has the better team, the Rockets are on fire this year. That's a really good team.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really
As
is.
opposed to what the Thunder have, where it seems to not be working. You know, maybe that goes into Russ's attitude into this game, but regardless, like Russ is not controlling these games like you see what Harden did.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what you were talking about at first, where the Thunder finally beat some bad teams, right? They lost to Golden State, and then they lost to Houston. Earlier this year, it was like the opposite was happening, and we had talked about before the All-Star break, like after the All-Star break, the idea that, they're going to come out and then just like flip it and then start beating the bad teams and losing to the good ones. And it seems like that's exactly happening, which kind of doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Neither of them really felt good, but it felt better to be beating.
But you would much
Awesome
prefer,
teams.
you beat good teams and then you lose to teams. There's sort of a built-in excuse. Well, we can beat the good teams. The playoffs are just going to have the good teams. Like, we're going to beat them anyways.
Yeah, now that's gone.
Yeah, that's gone. You're not only getting beat, but you look at that Warriors game, like the Thunder got destroyed.
Yep.
That was a beatdown.
Torn
and
to
then,
pieces.
And then the Rockets game, like the Thunder lost by 10, but the game was not that close.
Yeah, that score is not the story. Like that doesn't tell you much of what happened in the game.
It felt like it was like a systematic dismantling of the team. It's just any time that the Thunder like even made that effort to get close, which they did. Not hats off to the guys. Like they really worked kind of till there was just they finally waved the white flag with 15 seconds left.
Yeah.
or something.
Way later
Way
than
too
they
late.
should have.
But they
Waved
kept
it a
fighting,
while
but
before.
it was just every time that the Thunder would get there, the Rockets would just kind of stroll down the floor, make some passes, hit a big three. And there'd be a Thunder turnover at the other end of the floor. The Rockets would hit a three. It was just like it broke all the momentum that the Thunder even got close to having. They never really seized any momentum, but the second that they got close to just maybe grabbing a little bit of it, the Rockets just completely destroyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it, like you were saying, it felt like the Rockets just sort of held the Thunder at arm's length the entire time. Like that, the final score probably should have been a little bit more of a discrepancy than what it was, 10 points. But I mean, like you were saying, Justin, though the Thunder they kept fighting back, which was really good to see. They just didn't have enough to get over that hump.
Well, it was also like kind of what you were saying. I mean, they would fight back, and it looked really good at times. There were moments where, I mean, towards the start of the game, I remember them locking in defensively, and I was really excited about that. And then all of a sudden, it was the same story throughout the whole game, though. They would do that for a couple of minutes, and then like 7 minutes would go by where they would just not care at all. It felt like.
Yeah, they started out pretty good defensively, which was really good because they weren't playing very good offense. But as the game went on, like you even look at the scoring by quarter, Houston 26, 28, 33, 35. So they just every quarter they continued to score more, and it just felt like the Thunder defensively they just fell off.
It feels like they kind of get locked up in the flow of the game, especially with Russ. I mean, you can see it on the floor. Like Russ kind of becomes he becomes so like caught up in the game and how it's flowing that he feels like he has to push the pace. He kind of sags back, and this team, I think they relied so much on Russ, his attitude, his demeanor on the floor, that when he's not doing something, it becomes less important to everyone else, and it just becomes it's infectious and toxic both at the same time.
Okay, so one thing that we've talked about a lot, and I don't want to get too far into it, but we've complained justly about officiating. Players have done it. We've talked about it on this podcast. And you look at a game where the Rockets bench shot 11 free throws. They were 11 for 11. You look at the Thunder's team as a whole, shot 8 for 11. So the Thunder as a whole shot 11 free throws, and then you have the Rockets bench shooting 11 free throws. I mean, the Rockets shoot a bunch of free throws. That's like 20% of their offense or something.
Right, yeah. Well,
is off of free throws, and it's just like that going in, but it's still like whenever you see that kind of discrepancy, and just for the record, the total was 11 to 34 in free throws. The Rockets shot
34 free throws to
the
our
Thunder
11.
shot only 11. Yeah,
Which is insane. But then again, if you're watching the game, it didn't look like we were really in position to draw fouls at all, and they always are. Like we weren't really driving hard to the basket. I mean, I'm sure Paul George, of course, got smashed a couple times that no one cared about. That happens, but I mean, there was just a lack of trying to get to the bucket and trying to draw contact like you're used to seeing Russ doing and you're used to seeing these other guys do, and it just wasn't there.
And it's just sort of how the Thunder are sort of playing right now, where it's isolation basketball, and I mean you're not going to get to the line a lot that way, and so they're kind of putting themselves at a disadvantage in that way, because you have guys that should be able to attack the basket, and it's just it's not translating onto the court. It's just not working so far this year.
Well, and Steven Adams wasn't able to do anything. And granted, you got to give a lot of credit to the Rockets' defensive scheme. They just kind of they sank back in the paint. They're like, hey, you know what? If you're going to beat us, hit a bunch of jump shots. And it fucking worked, because this team is there are just so many things wrong. I'm starting to get worked up just talking about this again. It's really starting. The thing is, it's either an effort thing, or it's a talent thing, or it's a combination of the two, or it's direction with this team.
Right.
And right now it feels like all of the above.
24 minutes of that game, I saw the things I wanted to see. I saw a combination, a team that could actually win basketball games. The other 24, though, I saw lack of effort. The standing around while a guy's wide open hitting a three.
Right.
And letting Houston dictate how you're going to run your – there's going to be a lot of ISO ball. We've watched a ton of Thunder games. That's just how they are, especially Carmelo and Russ. Right. But they let Houston completely dictate how they were going to run their offense. You got to be better than that.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a playoff team, if you think you can even contend past the first round or even in the first round,
or get to the first
you've got to be better than that. And they just weren't last night. I can accept the loss when it comes to a team that just won its 50th game of the year. That's impressive. The Rockets are really good. But the way these keep happening, the just uninspired effort that I see for good portions of a game, I'm getting sick of it.
Yeah. And I like fired up Justin, just for the record.
I'm getting hot.
Yes, I like it.
So who is that on, though? I feel like we've talked about this so much, but still, like, is that Billy Donovan not getting guys ready? Is that professional athletes just not doing what they should be doing? Because one thing that we did see was whenever the bench came in, I think it was in that first half, they were down by about double digits. The bench comes in. You have Raymond Felton hits a three. Somebody else hits a three. You get Russ off the bench. Like, he was fired up. He was. Oh, right, yeah. Houston ended up calling the timeout.
Popped up, was whipping a towel around and stuff.
He came out onto the court. Like, it seemed like there was a point there where that could have been a turning point for the Thunder. But who do you blame there? Who is it that is not getting the job done, or is it everybody?
Maybe it is just a cop-out answer, but I feel like everyone is culpable here. I really do.
I mean, I agree with you completely. Like, these people are all professionals at this, right? And they take pride in what you're doing and care. Like, it really does feel to me at times. I mean, especially watching the defense last night, where Russ would just stand and watch Chris Paul going for a layup. Melo just watched Harden drive past him, and it's like, we at least try to do something.
But that's the scary answer, I think, because because how does that change then?
Yeah, like how do you fix that? And that.
Yeah, if it was one teammate that was sort of a bad attitude that was just affecting the locker room, maybe you could look at that. If you really felt like you just had a bad coach who couldn't motivate guys,
right.
Like maybe you could look at that. But you're really just saying like it's all the way around. Everybody kind of needs to do better. And then but
they do for portions of time, right? Like there are portions of time where it's like, oh yeah, that's the thing. Like do that more. And then they seem to just have amnesia and forget about it and say, nah, I'm going to let him walk in.
Yeah, going back to the locker room thing, could it be, I don't want to point fingers at Melo, but
the last three podcasts were just like, that fucking guy.
And obviously I'm not in there. I don't know what's going on, but could you have some veteran presence just walking around being like, guys, it's fine. It's March. Who the hell gives a shit about March? We're playing for April. We're playing for May. We're playing for June. You guys, go play hard. Go try and win the game. But, if it's too much, don't burn all your energy now. Well, what if there is a guy in the locker room like that, and it's just kind of spreading around the locker room?
Who should the guy be? Obviously, I think it should be Russ, right?
Yeah.
Russ needs to be the guy that would step up. But so could you make the argument? Has this team already checked out? Are the problems that they're seeing, the issues that are going on during the game? I mean, is it a possibility that some of these guys just already have checked out for the year because they think that they really have no shot at moving forward?
It's a sad but legitimate possibility. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about this team kind of giving up and just hoping that they can rest their laurels on how talented they are.
Yeah.
But you see it.
Well,
you really do.
I think Melo before the game yesterday was saying they're comfortable, they're right where they want to be and stuff, and feel like they're coming around and things like that. But then when you watch them, it's you realize you're a couple games from being out of the playoffs right now.
Right.
Granted, there's some more games left, but not many. There's really not.
Yeah. Well, the Thunder are currently 7th in the West. They're 2.5 out of 3rd.
That's good. That's
the other
great.
side, yeah. On the other side, the Thunder are only a game and a half out of 9th.
That's fucking terrible.
Yeah, that's. I mean, and we're going to be looking at this the rest of the regular season because every single night, depending on who loses, who wins, you're going to see okay, well, so now we moved up to 6th. Oh God, now we've moved down to 8th. There's going to be with all of this, with this sort of log jam of teams in the West. You're going to see every single night and probably every week on this podcast, we're going to be sort of
flipping around.
Yeah, it's going to be
we feel good this week, and then the next week it'll probably be terrible. And it's weird, seeing Portland go from they were 9th or 8th or something like that, and then all of a sudden they're 3rd.
Yeah.
It's what the hell happened
well, you
there?
go on a
But
a 6-game winning streak,
Right.
it could change, and one team goes 4-2, and you can just jump in the standings.
Yeah.
Quite a bit, and so it is. It's fun. I mean, I wish the Thunder weren't on this end of it. It would be nice to be 3rd right now, looking a little bit better. But as just a basketball fan, I mean, this is really fun to watch the Western Conference, sort of everybody trying to make that final push for the playoffs.
Yeah, because I definitely can't remember a time where it's been this close. It's
No.
crazy how close it is. You don't have any idea who's getting in right now still. And usually at least the top 5 are locked by now. And then
Right.
you're just kind of figuring out the bottom 3. But I don't know. It's just so weird to see this happening. And I think a lot of this has to do, our disappointment right now has to do with our expectations coming into the year. Mm-hmm. And now you see all this fluctuation. I mean, I kind of brought up last week. Jimmy Butler goes down for the Wolves. The Spurs are out without Kawhi. If you would have told us that at the beginning of the year and said, hey, in February and March, these two guys are going to be out, what seed do you think you're going to be?
Or
you're
even
we're
this.
going to be incredible.
A lot of people, you say that before the season, you're going to lose Dre.
Yeah.
They're going to lose Butler. They're going to lose Kawhi.
You're
You're like, well, that sucks, but that sort of feels like a net
in our favor.
positive sort of, for the Thunder. That's actually, of all the bad things that could happen, that's something that you would have been like, oh, that sucks, but well,
And a lot of people were like, sweet, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And because they are the people that were like, get Dre off the floor. But
it is
clearly they're not very.
Yeah, and the problems that we've seen, since Dre has been out, the Thunder are. I have this stat here. The Thunder are 2-6 versus current playoff teams since the Roberson injury.
Right.
They're 6-2. That during that same stretch, they're 6-2 against non-playoff teams. Like you said earlier, it's completely switched. It just doesn't. It's just. I don't know. Is Andre Roberson really that much of a factor against these great teams?
I think he's a much bigger factor than anyone thought. Even I loved the guy and didn't think he was this important. I mean, even offensively, before his injury, our offensive rating, we were 10th in the league at 106.9. Now we're 16th.
It wasn't supposed to.
How does that make
It
any
wasn't
sense?
supposed to affect offense.
He sucks at offense. He's
Yeah.
not even like he's just a tree sitting
Well,
over there.
and now you got. I mean, Houston at least is showing a little bit of improvement. Like Terrence Ferguson obviously wasn't ready for that
Yeah,
role
that wasn't working.
at all. And then Houston, at least he's picking up his scoring, but like you went from replacing. He was
Sort
at
of.
what, like 5 or 6 points a game before he got hurt, and now like you have to replace that. But for that big stretch where you were trying to put in Alex Abrinas
Yeah.
and Andre Roberson, no one was scoring at that 2 spot.
Right.
Yeah.
So that offense does matter. And I think, one of the things that I like to bring up a lot because it's something that I really appreciate about sports, that cohesion.
Yeah,
But
that's
we kind of talked about what was happening, last year. Like, what would last year's team, right? Like, if we had just stood pat during the offseason and not really, like, maybe you bring in a guy like Raymond Felton, but you don't trade for Paul George, you don't trade for Carmelo. Does that affect your playoff chances or
I think
your,
at least
your success
not-
in the playoffs? Yes.
yeah.
But I think it's a much better team right now as far as standings go, just because you have that cohesion, and it's just something's not working.
Well, the West is better this year, but
Yeah.
the Thunder have the exact same record at this time that they had last year, and so
Which we wouldn't have thought.
no, we wouldn't have thought. That's a huge disappointment.
So maybe they shouldn't have made one of those trades. I'm not going to say which one.
So what it really comes down to, obviously last year, I want to talk a little bit about Russ and kind of the backlash that he received off of really, I mean, it really picked up after the Rockets game, which I don't know if it was just having Russ and Harden on the same court together. You can clearly see the difference there. I still think maybe that's a little unfair. I mean, you're talking about one game, of having them both on the court. And so, but nevertheless, we had TNT last night listed Russ's shooting numbers whenever
Right, yeah.
the Thunder's record whenever he shoots 17 or less compared to whenever he shoots 18 or more. And that completely blew up. Not expected, really. I mean, I think as we watch these games, we know that Russ shooting less to an extent
It's typically better.
is better. He'll facilitate more typically in that case. So we kind of already knew that, and I think that's maybe why I didn't think it was such a big deal. But whenever you look at like sort of national media now, we're again questioning: can you win with Russ? Does anybody want to play with Russ? All
Right.
because of sort of, I think, this one sort of statistic, which doesn't really take everything into account. I mean, without context, it looks really bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you just look at that by itself, it looks horrible.
Yeah.
And I mean, even with context, it doesn't look good.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's not good because, and I think Brandon was saying this last night as people were tweeting in, which you
Yeah.
want to see like
If you want to get
crazy
depressed
stuff.
real quick.
Like go read through those mentions.
Yeah, so Brandon tweeted out the picture of
Yeah.
NBA putting that stat up, and Howard Beck retweeted it from Bleacher Report, and it went berserk, and everybody just shat on Russ, like a whole bunch
Yeah,
of people.
it's-
There were a couple people that were like, "Hey, there's no context to this," which is what we're trying to.
It's crazy how that people just jump on that so quick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think for Russ, I mean, he's had that story his whole career, right? And then last year was finally like, oh, that's over.
Yeah.
Cool. And then now you get a couple All-Stars, one former, in there, and it's like, can he play with these guys? And it looked good at parts of the season. I mean, it's looked rough most of the time, but I mean, they went on that little run for a while, and as soon as it looks bad again, and like that stat doesn't help anything. I mean, people
Yeah.
are just gonna be like, oh, see, look, you can't.
Well, and what I
'Cause of these
think
numbers.
what I think the national media sort of took off with, especially, I mean, today it was just all over the place, but like you saw where people were questioning, the type of teammate that Russ is. And I will say, like, I do get a little frustrated with Russ. Like, whenever you see, like, just his demeanor during games, or like, he'll walk away from a huddle. He always, he goes to the end of the bench. He sits there. That's just what he does. like at first it's kind of like, I think if you just see that on rare occurrences, you'll be like,
that
that's
guy's a real
terrible,
dick.
it's a terrible teammate. He doesn't.
But I mean, we've
he,
talked about
like isolates himself, doesn't want to be a part of everyone else. That's not what's happening. But like you look at what national media does and just sort of grasps onto this and just takes off with it. It's insane to me.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. I mean, there was a Ringer article out today. I can't remember the title of it or anything, but it was basically talking about.
It's not important.
It was just
right?
yeah, it doesn't matter.
Just an article.
But it had our tweet in there. It was comparing Harden and Russ, and it was talking about how Russ is a soloist and Harden's more of a team guy and stuff like that. I'm like, well, it's not necessarily the case.
No.
Like if you look at isolation plays, like they run a lot more than us.
They do.
And like I had the numbers pulled up earlier, but I think I removed them. But basically, they had like 990 something isolation plays to our. I think we were like 700.
Yeah, and
something.
so the key there is like that's what Houston does. They are so good at it. Like
efficiency is the thing.
Efficiency is the biggest part of that. And you have Harden, who is the most efficient in those situations, and then Chris Paul, which I didn't look it up exactly, but I know that he's like third in those isolations, the efficiency in isolation situations. So
And then
I mean, it makes sense for them.
We have two of the worst efficient.
Yeah, and you look at the
players.
Thunder, and the teams are just built differently.
Well, you throw in, you've got Trevor Ariza out there. You've got Ryan
Yeah.
Anderson. You've got Eric Gordon.
Yeah.
You've got capable shooters
Coming
out there.
off the bench.
So you can have two ball dominant guys that will go ISO, but also are great passers. Of course, their numbers are going to look a lot better in those situations.
So what I will say, though, is some of it is fair in criticizing Russ because he's just not been what the Thunder need. Like, he has to be really good for this team to win because there's not enough – like, there's just not enough pieces there.
Yeah.
Like, the Thunder, like we just talked about, the Rockets are built for what James Harden does. Like, they have built that team around him to be able to drive and kick out, and he always makes the right decision. Like, he finds the open guy, and that's a credit to him. He always puts the ball in like a perfect position, and Russ has just not been doing enough of that.
Right. Well, and I mean, like you said just now, when Russ is really good, this team is incredible.
Right.
And I mean, whenever they went on their run and looked great after like December 1st or whatever, Russ was incredible. Mm-hmm. He was playing so well. His shot was falling. He was getting other guys involved. And now all of a sudden, after the All-Star break, that's just fallen off. Like, and they don't look like they're trying to play together. They don't look like they're talking.
Yeah.
And I feel like it starts with him. It has to start with him. And like he needs to be out there talking with people. Like I don't see that communication from him, And that's
sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but it sure as hell doesn't look fun.
Yeah, right.
I can tell you, you remember after those games they'd win, where you'd have the post game interview. They'd be doing some weird shit and like the mellow with the water, and you don't see it now. Granted, when they don't win a game, they're not going to do that anyways. But
It'd be weird.
Even when they win, it just doesn't feel like they've got the same demeanor out there. It feels like it's so business, and it's so forced that it just looks ugly. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth. It's just it's a bad product.
Yeah, how you win definitely affects how you act as well.
Right.
If you like the Thunder you get ugly wins, as we'll call them. I mean, it's nice to actually get the win, but as you said, Justin, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. It doesn't feel like it should because of how you looked out there. And so, I mean, that's a big deal. And I think there's a lot of, I don't know, there's stuff behind the scenes, obviously, that we don't get to see, where these guys are trying to create cohesion and get on the same page. I don't think that they don't like each other or that there's no chance that this is going to work, but the likelihood that Russ is just going to kind of revert back and be incredibly great, Russ, are you guys expecting that? Is that something that you're just kind of, there's just going to be a switch right as we get close to the playoffs and that's just going to turn on?
I mean, I have a hard time thinking, like, after seeing him do it, and especially, like, he's even done it with this group, like, where he's been able to,
we've seen
to
it.
perform that way. And having seen it, I have a hard time thinking he can't get there because I've watched it happen.
Yeah.
But the fact that it only was there for a small period of time is very difficult. And just I mean, when you continually see them the way they're barely winning games and they just don't seem like they're having a good time, like we're talking about, like, and I feel like there's just less communication every week from them.
So how do you change it though? I mean, do you take less of the burden off of Russ? Do you start running more offense through Paul George? Like,
there was a point last night in that game. Was it the third quarter where the offense was kind of moving through Paul George, and it looked awesome.
And then you had, at that point, then you have Russ who just starts to make bad decisions. Like I mean, whenever it's working, like, let's ride it out for a little while.
Yeah, wait till it stops working.
Or for Russ, like, you just have to continue to find your way through the offense in a different way. Mm-hmm. Like, that 100% is on Russ to be able to figure out whenever Paul George has it going. Like, you just have to figure out how you fit in that rather than trying to change it so that he fits in whatever you want to do.
And that might be the thing that Russ can't do.
Yeah, and that's something we haven't really seen.
Yeah. Like, I don't think you have really ever seen Russ be like, "Hey, I'm gonna make some cuts. I'm gonna set some screens for some people. I'm gonna do something that's not me having the ball in my hand, getting a direct result from it." Right. And that's I think the criticism of him, right? And that's kind of what that article was saying today.
And the problem though also is, so let's say you do take some of the burden off of Russ. I mean, are you going to Paul George? Like, are you going to require Paul George to do more, who has been also struggling since the All-Star break?
Being real rough.
And so
shooting 24% from 3 since the All-Star break.
Right. And to that point,
that's bad.
And he's still, I mean, on the season, he's still
he's
still shooting so well. But I think there is something to be said there, like how much, and maybe that's the point. Like, he's struggling with his shot. Maybe that means even more so. Like, let's run the offense through him to try and get other things going.
Yeah, and I mean, since that time, you've seen him try to be a little bit more aggressive. He obviously knows his shot isn't going in, so he is trying to get it to the rim a little more. But I mean, he's overall shooting 38% from the floor since the All-Star break, so it's not good. Like, I don't know how to get him comfortable again, because he was so cozy before the break.
Right.
He was feeling it, you know.
Yeah.
So one thing that, and we haven't really touched on this a whole lot. It's been a lot about Paul George and Carmelo Anthony and Russell Westbrook. The one guy I think we're leaving out the most here is Steven Adams, and just this overall disappearance. And like you can kind of, I feel like it's dropped, especially in these last 10 or so games, especially last night where they couldn't figure out a way to get the ball to him
right
in a good position. Are we at the point where we need to just keep going with the Russ pick and roll with Steven Adams? Because obviously that's killer when he can run it the right way. Do we need to find other ways to get Steven Adams involved? Does Steven Adams need to be more of an especially throughout the game, not just doing this first quarter, Steven Adams scores 10 points and then ends up with 12 on the night? Does he need to be more of a focal point in this offense to create another point of attack that teams don't have to sag off of throughout the game that makes you more of a dynamic offense?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because something that we've criticized, or at least I have in previous podcasts, criticized the Thunder in, like, Steven Adams has an advantage against almost every center in the league. There's a few guys that he's not going to. Clint Capella is a really good player, especially for what the Rockets do.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and Adams, I think he shot 7 for 9. I don't have it in front of me. I think he shot 7 for 9 last night.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, 7 for 9.
So, I mean, he actually, that's a good amount of, I think 9 shots, 9 attempts.
Pretty solid
and
for him.
I've got a couple of numbers here that we'll get into in just a little bit. But, like, there's other teams, like we saw against the Mavericks, where you have to run pick and roll for Steven Adams, even just to get the switch, and then you have to utilize his advantage down there. Mm-hmm. I feel extremely confident that Adams will be able to pass out of that, especially with a smaller guy on him. Like, you just have to. I feel like that is 100% Billy Donovan not doing enough, either to force to call out plays, which maybe he is and they're not running it, doesn't seem as likely to me, or the fact that just Billy Donovan is not doing enough to make sure that happens. And that's where I think you can definitely blame Billy Donovan in all of this. Like, there's no doubt in my mind Billy's not doing enough there.
Yeah.
Like, commanding these guys to do more as he should be.
Yeah, I mean you watched the game last night, and I mean, there are some possessions they'll go down and they'll run some action, and typically when they do that, it's a good result.
Right.
They score, or they at least get a good look. But for the majority of the game, you just see them standing around, like the whole team. And I think I brought this up last night. I watched the Clippers-Pelicans game afterwards, and you watch two supposedly terrible teams.
Yeah.
Where the Pelicans have been really good lately, but in our minds, the Clippers and Pelicans aren't as good. They're not an elite level team like we're supposed to be. But
A lot of air quotes
it
there.
looks a lot like they know how to play basketball and we don't. Like both of those teams.
They weren't playing against the best team in the league so far this year. But
Right.
No, but I do 100%.
Even if you watch us against the Mavs, it doesn't look like we know how to play basketball.
That's a good point.
Like, it's so dumbfounding to me that they just sit there.
So back to Billy Donovan. Is he in over his head? Like, was this a mistake on Presti's part? Who, it just Billy Donovan's just not the right coach for this team.
Well, I mean, I think when Donovan got here, I think he did a really good job. I mean, this is really hard to talk about now because we've been harping on remember that playoff series against the Spurs where he did real good?
Yeah.
And remember how we were
Seems so long
so
ago.
good against the Warriors that one series and then lost? But I mean, I think he did a really good job in those series, but this year it doesn't seem like he has command of the team. Brandon brought up earlier today that apparently last night he told the team not to switch on defense.
Yeah, and I don't know. He didn't provide.
I didn't see the actual quote.
Yeah, I don't know who provided that quote.
Right. Yeah.
Where I'm sure he got that off of Twitter. But
So let's hypothetically say it's true that Billy Donovan says
Right.
don't switch on defense. Everything they did last night was switching on defense.
nonstop. That's what they do.
Harden would walk up the court. Russ is kind of sort of by him. And then Melo would just walk over and be like, oh, I got it.
Yeah.
No, you don't. You don't fucking got it at all.
He actually did okay.
Did he?
In some of those situations. Yeah, I mean, he definitely tired out at the end. But for what you thought you would get, you would think it would be there's
True.
no
There
chance.
was a little effort.
He
though.
actually held his own a couple of times, but I do agree. And depending on where that quote came from, if that is true, that's so bad.
That's very
on
worrisome.
Billy Donovan.
So if he's saying that and they're just not listening to him,
There's your answer, right?
That's bad.
Yeah, there's your answer. If it's one thing to say that he's just not a good coach, that's not true.
Yeah, he
I
is a
think
good
he
coach.
knows X's and O's. He can make it. I think he can make adjustments well. That was sort of the thought process whenever he first came in, and that was really what we saw. That's kind of what we've seen previously. I feel confident most of the time whenever they've come out. It seems like prior to the season though. Whenever they come out of a timeout, I felt confident, and
Right.
that's gone now. But
Yeah.
it's one thing. I just don't think you can let a coach off the hook to say, well, I'm telling them what to do. They're not listening. That's still on the coach.
According to Nick Herman from YouTube, it was from Fred Katz.
Okay.
So I believe that.
That's and I didn't doubt that that's a reliable source, and 100% I think Billy said that. But it doesn't change the fact that that's still bad.
It's so bad.
And a lot of it though for me is on Billy Donovan on that, because if you're saying and it's not getting through, then what's your next action?
Yeah. How do you
take these
figure out-
guys out? Do you go what do you do at
You
that
can't
point?
just not do anything, right?
Yeah, because then it doesn't matter.
That's not helpful.
Well,
And-
it doesn't matter at that point, because if nobody's listening, they're definitely not going to listen there, because you've lost all your authority.
Right.
Year one, it seems like he got through. He had a team that he could work with and do the things that he wanted to. And maybe we're just looking back because that was a fun team to watch. And and then year two, well, it's pretty much just Russ kind of just go do whatever.
Right.
And it's almost like he walked into the season trying to design something, some sort of semblance of an offense around a guy who, not that he's uncoachable, but you just have to let him do what he's going to do because he's that dynamic of an offensive player anyways. So it's he started to design this offense, then we get Paul George, we get Carmelo Anthony, and it's well, shit.
Well, and
all that just went out the window.
And with that,
Yeah.
I mean, he designed the offense for PG and Russ. He had time to do that. And then when we got Melo, it was the day before training camp started. And it's well,
Yeah.
scrap that shit.
And it's he hasn't found anything that's... Obviously, we know that Billy Donovan loves to tinker around with things. He hasn't found something that's worked. I don't know that he knows how to properly use all the personnel on this team. And so, yeah, I think he is a little bit over his
Some of
head.
the people on this team are probably not properly usable.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
barely
At this
can
point,
do basketball.
Maybe 4 years ago.
Yeah, right. But I mean, kind of what you're talking about before too, when they're coming out of timeouts, you used to trust that. You used to trust that if another team was doing something to take away what we had, he would make an adjustment to fix it. Last night, you're switching everything. Melo's getting on CP or Harden every play, it seemed like.
Right.
And that's not going to work. You would feel like years past, I would feel confident that Billy would be able to say, hey guys, quit doing this. Let's figure something else out.
So then maybe it's accountability with somebody like Russ then, who's not, doing enough to sort of help his coach. Because at the end of the day, these are grown men who have to decide to follow what the coach says.
Right. I mean, you're not going to sit there and scream at these guys. I mean, Tom Thibodeau would, but you can barely hear him because it's just so
because he
gone.
screams so much.
He yells so much, all his players get hurt. So
He's just breaking knees. But, I mean, it's not the best method probably to go yell at some adults.
Pop does it though. Well, I mean,
Yeah, but
obviously
he's
you're saying
Pop.
there's No, I completely agree.
Like, you see Brad Stevens out there. He's talking sensibly to people, but he's also making a lot of damn sense.
Yeah, and I just don't.
It works.
I think you look at Billy's personality. Like, I don't think it just is not. It's not his personality to just sit there and just berate players who aren't doing what he's
And-
asking them to do.
And I'm going to be honest, it's taken me a long time to come around on he's just not working out. But
Yeah.
I'm starting to be there.
I think we're getting closer and closer, especially as this team is starting to look worse and worse. Brandon said on the last pod that he thought a first round exit meant Billy is gone. I struggled to grasp that because I just think this team makes the playoffs. Let's say let's say that they get the 5th seed, and they happen to lose to whoever you want to say, the Timberwolves or whoever else, that you want to say there in a close series. I just struggle to think that Sam Presti is going to pull that trigger.
Well, yeah, I mean, you also have to keep paying him, so that would suck.
Right.
Since we're paying, I don't know how much, I can't remember the ginormous amount of money we're paying in luxury taxes.
billions and billions.
Billions and billions. But it's like Sam handpicked this guy, right? And he seems to really like him. So I do if it's a close series, it would be surprising if he's just gone. If they don't make the playoffs, I think it's got.
Yeah, if they don't,
I think it's got to be gone.
If they don't make the playoffs, I completely agree. So this is the team that Presti has put together. The most recent addition, Corey Brewer, who talk a little bit about here. He evidently has really gained favor inside of the organization, especially with Billy, who
loves him.
Yeah, evidently he's gonna.
Loves him to
We
death.
saw 11 minutes in the first game. I thought that was low. We talked a couple of podcasts ago. I think I put the number at 16 to go over or under. And so I still feel like that's probably where he'll lie. But you look at Corey Brewer, who has been the lowest in terms of plus minus these first 2 games. He's actually a total of a minus 34. And we are talking about 2 playoff teams that they've played. Actually, the 1 and the 3 seed in the West,
right,
that they've lost to.
And
but still,
he just showed up and started playing.
Yeah, but still, you look at a guy who's minus 34 in his first 2 games is just, to me, that's concerning. And I think that also speaks to a little bit like we were talking about of what the situation that Presti has put Donovan in to try and just figure all of this out. Here's a bunch of pieces, may or may not work, but just kind of figure it out. In terms of Brewer, we kind of knew that this wasn't going to be exactly what Roberson gave us, obviously. But what we're seeing, you look 56 games that he's played in this year. He played 54 with the Lakers. He was only plus 17 games.
His plus minus was only positive 17
17 of those games.
And it was the Lakers, so obviously they were losing a lot.
Yeah,
but
you can qualify that as being with the Lakers. You put him on the Thunder these 2 games, and he's a minus 34.
Doesn't help.
No, it doesn't. And so I think, expectations.
Hey, bro, he hit 2 threes last night.
And so I do want to talk about that a little bit because he was a lot more aggressive offensively. Like he was actually looking to score. I mean, he shot like 4 for 10, I think, in the game.
Exactly 4 for 10, 2 for 6 from 3.
Yeah.
He took 6 threes.
Yeah,
Why?
That's not what you want.
Don't do that.
He seems like a guy. I'm hoping that's not the case, but as soon as that first one goes in,
Oh,
he
yeah,
starts thinking, "Well, I
I'll just
got
make
this."
the rest of them then. Obviously.
Yeah. So what do you guys expect? We've sort of seen 2 games with Brewer, 11 minutes, 20 minutes. I think that maybe
He foul out last night.
I don't know. Did he?
6 personal fouls.
Oh, he might. Well,
Sounds right.
Yeah.
he had a stupid foul at the end where he hit PJ Tucker, like trucked PJ Tucker
Wait, what?
at the end for no reason. Like,
I don't remember
Yeah.
seeing that part.
yeah, like
I
Tucker
must have
was
been
hurt a
getting-
little bit, and where
I must have
did
been
you watch
getting
any
a
of the game?
Yeah, watched the whole thing except for that one.
So
It was at the very end.
So, Corey, I was kind of perusing through this because it was just like, man, your plus minus stat was. Oof.
That's
So
bad.
I wanted to look at his net rating.
Yeah.
Corey Brewer's net rating, just 2 games, it's a small sample size, obviously, but minus 43.4.
Phew.
His where'd it go?
That's not good, right?
Yeah, no, it is not good.
Yeah, I didn't
His
think so.
offensive rating is 90.8,
Yeah.
and his defensive rating is 134.2.
Yeah, that's not.
To put this into perspective, Kyle Singler,
Oh no.
his net rating is minus 3.2.
Yeah, and so what I do want to say is so the 2 games you've had Dame and McCollum, and then you're looking at Chris Paul and Harden. That's incredibly tough. Like I
Yeah.
don't want to be unfair to him because like you do see energy, which this team needs desperately.
Yeah.
Like that's what we loved about Terrence Ferguson. Like he wasn't a great defender, he wasn't hitting his shots, but man, did he try.
Right.
Like just somebody, at least there's somebody out there
Yeah.
giving energy. And I think going forward, like I hope we don't see him at 20 plus minutes a game. Like that has to come. I still think where I was with 16,
Yeah,
like right around there.
I would feel much more comfortable with that for sure. But yeah, I love that he has energy. We have to have something like that. But if he's gonna continue to be that bad, and I don't expect him to be that terrible.
I hope not.
If he is, this is a terrible decision. We should have just picked up you with your foot. You got a boot on, but still.
I don't have a boot on anymore. I powered through the boot.
So yeah, I mean, from your like what you're trying to expand upon what you're saying is like, it doesn't matter how much energy you go out there and give. If your energy is standing there in the corner being wide open and hitting the side of the fucking backboard,
Right.
I don't care how much energy you're giving me. That's not good enough. Or to be terrible and just like a complete non-factor both offensively and defensively.
Now you're
where you
just
were
the
supposed to be-
second mellow.
Exactly. So like you're not helping the team out. Like that energy eventually is just like, man, we don't need that on the team.
Well, so that's again like Billy Donovan's going to have to figure that out, how to use. Just like we saw, like it wasn't always smooth with Roberson. Like there was a learning curve on figuring out like how to use him, and we're definitely going to have to see something. Something's going to have to be worked through with Corey Brewer going forward if he's going to have sort of, success with this team.
Almost everyone on this roster can give something. Almost everyone. And Corey Brewer, I think, can give something. But yeah, like you're saying, you got to find the right fit for him, and that just it hasn't happened yet.
Kind of on that point though, can they? Like, because I mean, you see, like, so Patrick Patterson, I don't know what he's been doing. It doesn't feel like really anything. I mean, that game he started in place of Melo was really nice.
One of the things that's so weird to me is that, like, you have Corey that comes in and is like immediately Donovan likes this guy.
Yeah.
And then you have Patterson, who that's so weird to me that Patterson just struggles to get on the court.
And
not that they play the same position. I'm not drawing that.
Yeah, no.
But I'm just saying, just in general, you have somebody who I think can add a lot of value there, even though maybe it hasn't shown as much.
But I also think
on the stat sheet, like I want to see Patterson in a bigger role.
Yeah, well, it's what we talked about this before with him when he started for Melo. He had a great game.
Yeah,
he did a really good job. He played next to Adams. I think Brandon said that was like the best two-man lineup that the Thunder have had. Why aren't we seeing that more? We don't see it at all, ever.
I don't know.
It's very, like, some of the rotations, like, I'm, like, at this point, the tinkering is even getting to me, and I like the tinkering.
So we were,
but he's not doing tinkering that makes sense.
he's not doing
That's
the
the
tinkering
problem.
you want. Have you written him a letter to let him know?
I'm gonna write that right after this.
All right, you guys want to do Twitter questions?
Let's do it.
Twitter question.
Tweet. I like
Sorry,
that.
I wanted-
EKG tweet.
I just had to leave that up so I could get the tab open, to be honest.
I'm
All right.
a little heated after that.
Oh yeah, too hot.
From Justin Jacobson at JustJack71, at what point in the playoffs will Billy turn to Cheeks and say, "Can't play Melo"?
Oh man,
Damn.
so bad.
So, for people who don't know, that happened with Canner last year against the Rockets, where Billy turned to Mo Cheeks and said, "Can't play Canner." So that's gonna be depressing.
But that's where you should be able to. The part that makes it so depressing is like that is exactly where you should be able to play Melo. Like we're supposed to be. Like we're supposed to be able to use you there, and if you, it makes me sad.
Understandably so. From Ben Burke at Ben_Burke10, what's wrong with Paul George?
I don't know. It's a lot of things.
That damn 3-point shooting contest.
It had to have been that.
It broke
He
him.
embarrassed himself, and then
Remember when he threw it off the backboard?
yeah. Remember when Russ was laughing at him and we were like, "Oh, they're such good buddies.
Yeah,
this
that's
is so fun."
Yeah.
And then that just no more laughing. So.
Yeah.
That was it. Russ just made fun of him so much after that it broke him. All right, also from Ben, what's wrong with Billy Donovan's mind?
So many things.
Good question.
I feel
Those
like
are sad funnies.
We've talked too much about Billy Donovan. From Cole Steffens at Cole Steff, what's your most retweeted tweet of all time?
It was the.
It had to have been
Yeah, I
the
think it
last
was the one that Brandon did last night about the Russ stat,
Yep.
which to make it even worse, like you have Russ like bending over. They put this.
He looks all sad.
They put the graphic up there, and Brandon just in his living room just takes that picture and just posts it, not thinking it was gonna blow up like it did, and just people just come out of the woodworks to
man.
just say mean things.
So mean.
Just.
It's
It's messed up, and we're
I
getting notifications all like nonstop about this thing just blowing up.
Yeah. Like all day
Little
of
mad
just
at
like
Brandon
somebody
about it.
talking shit about Russ.
Yeah.
And I'm like, stop it. He's good.
Yeah.
Mine was back in April of 2017. After Wednesday's loss to Houston, Thunder 0-5 in the playoffs since Kevin Durant decided to join the Golden State. Which that one was still funny. I'm
That
proud
was a
of that
good
one.
tweet.
But man, it's
That's a bummer.
sad. From Evan McDeasy at Evan ETM, is this team even good? I seriously can't see it anymore.
I think that's a great. That's a good point because like we all thought that this team was good, and then you're looking at what seems like just a normal, just in the pack, which they are in the standings, but just like a average
middle
team.
of the road,
Yeah.
kind of good.
Can be good. They've been really good at times.
Yeah.
And they've been so bad.
Heckle
at
and
times.
jive, bro.
Yeah.
Heckle and
Just
jive.
don't. It doesn't make sense. I don't know how I don't know how you make sense of that.
Yeah.
From Todd Lytle at ToddBoy23, which is tighter,
23?
Melo's headband or PG's forearm?
Oh man.
Definitely headband.
Yeah, that headband.
That thing is about to
As soon as
it,
I think as soon as it comes off, it just like
rubber bands across the
yeah,
room.
slingshots. Over
Unless he pulls it off and throws it down, which he does
Yeah.
from time to time.
Like in the Golden State game
Yeah.
when he got mad.
We need to see more of that from Melo.
Yeah, where's the fire?
not?
I mean, he did yell at Adams last night. I thought he was going to throw his headband at him. But it's like, bro, where's your help been all season?
Yeah.
You know?
So you gotta shoot it like a garter. You gotta do the garter toss with the. From number 8 at Derp Dip.
What?
Oh no, we're not doing this again.
Two butts.
How can I? Damn it! How can I apply for the Thunder head coaching job?
Ooh.
I believe you just send your resume to whatever the address of the Thunder offices
You
are.
just tweet at Sam Presti. That's not his name.
I don't know what's gonna happen
that
with
job.
Billy Donovan, but I think probably that guy might be an upgrade
Hey,
at this point.
do you think we might have one of the, like the, what was that movie about the Eagles player that like they drafted from the city? Are we going to do that with a coach?
What was that movie called?
Invincible?
Yeah,
That sounds about right.
Yeah, because
with
it was Vince,
Marky Mac.
Yeah. What was it?
Marky Mac.
Are you looking something up?
I'm making sure. Yes, Invincible.
Yeah.
Was the movie? Okay.
That's the thing we fact check. It's a movie and not
Hey, I actually
the bullshit stats.
the problem is I fact check a lot of stuff, but you guys just keep going by the time I actually get it
Yeah,
up. So it's like
we move on
shit.
because if it's wrong, we don't want to know.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. From Steven Adams for MVP at Kid Clutch 0 on a scale of 1 to 10. How worried are you about this Thunder team?
Ooh, we're bringing back the worried scale.
Yeah, I like the worried scale because it shifts after every game.
Yep. I'm getting up there, fellas.
What are you?
I was the whole season. I've been at what, like a 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I think I'm reaching an 8.
Oh my god, that's a huge
Good
jump.
God.
Yeah, I'm getting worried.
Dude.
I hopped up there.
Worried that
There is a possibility in my mind that we miss the playoffs. I don't think that's going to happen. I
That
really
would be
don't think that's
such a
going to happen.
disaster.
That would be a huge disaster. But also, the other part of my worry is that should we make it to the playoffs, which I think we will, I don't think it's going to go well.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping the switch that we've all been talking about all season is there, and everything's going to be just fine. I'm trying to talk myself down.
To miss the playoffs, I'm definitely at like a 3 or a 2. Very
Makes me
low.
feel better.
But the fact that this, like, what we expected preseason to what I think we're going to get, like, the fact that we're not going to win a first round series, I would be at like a 7.
Yep.
It's tough. You know how that hurts.
It doesn't
That's
feel
bad.
good. Especially when in the whole season I just rode this hope for so long.
Yeah,
and
so I do wonder.
But I'm like if I go off, I'm
You're
falling
like
down.
jumping off a
Yeah.
cliff. Okay.
I'm very extreme on this situation.
1.89 pi. That's where I'm landing.
Oh,
wow.
It's about 5.9.
oh, I don't know how math works. I forgot.
From Cody McGlone at Cody McChicken. These next 5 games, we have to go at least 4-1, right? Because it gets real tough real quick.
So the next
Yeah,
5.
what are the next 5?
We have this. We're Suns at home, Spurs at home, Kings at home, and then you get the
At
Hawks at Hawks, and then Clippers at home.
Yeah,
5-0, baby. Let's
they
go.
should definitely win all of those.
So you got the Spurs that are a playoff team, and then that's it, right? The Hawks aren't.
Maybe
No.
the Clippers. but
Oh, the
probably
Clippers aren't.
not.
No. Yeah, they have
They're
to.
around there.
I would say at minimum 4-1.
Yeah. Yeah. If they don't win at least 4 of those,
I mean
that worry level goes up.
but to say 3-2, like let's say they, for all we know, they could beat the Spurs and then lose
To the Suns and the
to the
Hawks.
Kings. I mean the Kings.
Yeah, they've lost to them before.
No, this is gonna get sad, so let's
Jesus.
not.
Gotta
Yeah.
do some soul searching here. From Luke Ray at Luke Ray Bands. Ray Bands. At this point, would it have been smart to take the Blake Griffin trade?
God damn it.
I questioned that from the beginning.
You
Like,
did?
say you get, well, you were gonna give me 5 years of Blake Griffin for sure.
Well, I mean, that's theoretical 5 years. In reality, it's more like
You're going
2.5
injuries?
years
With what? With injuries?
of
and-
total games. Yeah, you probably get
Oh.
2.5 total years,
But
but
if
not
you're gonna
altogether.
give me, I don't know. I just thought, like, I think a lot of people were saying, like, no way you can do that. You have to roll the dice. Like, I don't know, 5 years of Blake Griffin as opposed to the uncertainty. Like, maybe we're going exactly through KD again.
Ugh.
Like, to think we're gonna get nothing for Paul George is like scary.
Yeah, then that's so possible.
Yeah.
Well, who knows? Maybe Billy Donovan works better with a more traditional power forward.
Like
Maybe
like a
he-
Carmelo Anthony with no Paul George around,
Yeah.
because
like
that's
that.
gonna happen. Oh God.
Making this whole, and it's probably just to be expected.
Yeah.
But
It's sad. From Johnny at Triple Double VGC, what happened to the midseason Russ who was getting his teammates involved, facilitating the offense and playing defense? Doesn't Russ want Paul George to stay past this summer?
you tell me.
Does he?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He
I
said,
think he does.
we're going with the championship. Beat that pitch. So
It's
I
all back
expect-
to his pitch.
I expect we're gonna see something great from Russ then.
Russ is just really mad at Paul George for something petty. Like, didn't say that Noah was cute when he showed him a picture
didn't
on
high-
Instagram.
Oh yeah, the high five.
Didn't high five him in practice
Oh,
one day. It's
man.
probably the thing.
Ooh.
Oh God.
Russ is out for blood. From OKC 53 and 29, I like your optimism. At OKC season 13, is Billy D the problem? I mean, we kind of...
He's a part of it. Yes.
Yeah, I think that he may be
The problem.
the problem.
but he's at least, at minimum, a part of.
Oh,
the problem.
he's a problem for sure. I think, clearly he's a problem.
A problem, yes. The problem, probably.
Probably so.
From Gobel Syriac at JSmoothP27. Since
did that
Roberson,
way better than I did.
well, I'd ask him how it's pronounced.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cheater. They're cheating.
What? No, dude. Okay. Because when I first saw I saw Goebbels, like the actual
That's what I
German
did.
pronunciation.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it was Gobel's Syriac, I believe is what it
Alright.
said.
All right.
JSmoothP27, since Roberson has been gone, our defense has been atrocious. Should Billy D look to change our defensive schemes? Should they do what Portland does and force their bigs to sag back in the paint?
They should figure
Try something
else out.
Sure wish they wouldn't have switched everything against
Yeah,
Houston.
if they had listened to Billy and not switched everything, I feel like we'd be telling Billy that was a pretty good job, bro.
Yeah.
For that win that we got.
Do you think Billy put that out there and be like, hey, I didn't want them to do any of that. I was like, don't do that. And they were like,
before
I'm
the
doing
game, really,
that.
he's like, guys, I'm gonna need you to switch everything.
Yeah.
Make sure that Melo gets on CP or Harden every play,
Yeah.
and we'll see how this pans out. And then immediately after, he's like, damn, that was dumb.
Yeah.
I gotta tell these guys I did not say that.
Snitches get stitches, guys. Don't forget.
He's got his mob boss sitting in the room.
From Daniel Rodero at Daniolo124, did any of you think Corey was dropping 51 again at one point in the game? At times in which he just couldn't create, he just drove and scored.
He just does. He just runs. He runs and runs. But I did think that Corey Brewer thought that he was going to score 51. At one point, it was irrational confidence.
Wrong.
He's wrong,
Yeah, he was.
if that's what he thought.
Oh man. From Nick at plain name Nick. There we go. Sorry.
Oh.
My bad. I can't read.
I can't either. It's fine.
Do you guys have more fun watching this year's team or last year's team?
Last
Last
year's
year's
team.
by
Hands
a
down.
lot, right?
Yep.
Hercules Russ?
Yeah, so much
Yeah.
fun, and also, it's fun when you don't have expectations and disappointments.
MVP Russ.
Yeah,
That was a blast.
Yeah, that's fun.
What a good time that was.
You guys ever go back and watch Russ hitting that game winner?
Yeah, oh,
against
yeah.
Denver?
Oh yeah, that was a good
And,
one.
But I think
and
I'm due for that.
Yeah, that seems like something we should all do together after
Yeah.
this.
Brian Davis's amazing call in that game. That was awesome.
That was good.
From Jason Kelly at Kills405.
Oh, hey, bud.
When do we say enough with Donovan? Wait until 6:30ish left in the fourth, down 10 or so, to come back with PG and Russ? I see a 3-game losing streak coming.
Wait, what?
I think he meant
Oh,
we lost 2 and we're about to lose to the Suns.
to the
is what he's saying.
Suns.
You see how it looked last time we played the Suns? No.
Wow. At home, if they lose that game, we will 100%. We'll flip this table.
That
We will-
aftershock is going to be
Oh, yeah.
exciting.
Oh,
Is that your
God.
first one, too?
Yeah, I think it will be.
Ooh.
Oh, God. I
It'll
can't.
be either me or
I hope
Brendan,
they
don't know.
lose so that you just don't have a stroke on that thing.
I will just
Be the first
crap
live-
all over them if they lose that
Yeah,
game.
podcast death.
It'll just be me just weeping. Just
It's really you're just crying in the corner.
Just
Yeah.
15 minutes of crying.
okay.
From Rock with OKC at OKC Rock with It. How can Donovan get the most out of his team as far as new schemes or rotations?
a lot of Billy questions.
Weird how this happens. I mean, he needs to somehow get him to listen to him and also have better ideas. Would help.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he might need a little bit more buy-in, maybe, or I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Maybe threaten them all
Yeah,
Jesus.
that would probably work.
with physical violence. Yeah, that's how he does it. That's it.
From Always In Forever Art at Always In Forever Art. Why do you think Billy D and the guards on OKC are opposed to giving Adams the ball more in the post and high post more?
That's a lot of Morse.
Great things almost always happen. I saw Paul George and Russ wave him off when he had position versus the Rockets.
Definitely something we talked about. They need to do more of. You have to utilize Adams more.
Yeah.
He's too good. I just wish he could create for himself a little bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not.
He's not bad, but it's something
like,
he's not
you
natural
look at
doing.
like he's a defender who's evolving as an offensive player.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the strides that he has made have
Oh,
been
yeah. Oh,
great,
they've been-
but he definitely has a little bit more to go.
It's just I wanted to do it now, damn it.
Yeah, just be great.
From Joey Amato at JA Matt 761. Would Brewer be best at small forward again like he has so many years, and PG at 2 to possibly resurrect his game again?
I don't know that it really matters.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna do well.
I mean, I just don't.
Regardless of.
I mean, I think you're looking at matchups anyways, and so I don't know that I don't know that we need to just classify as a 2 or a 3. Just.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because like.
It's fluid, and you play the matchup.
Yeah.
Spitting everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know why you keep trying to spit on me.
The game is positionless basketball at this point, anyways.
That's the way it should be.
From Z at ZDZY Bach, is there an effort problem on this team?
Yes.
I was at the game, and it seems like Russ just didn't hustle on defense, made lazy passes. I know Houston is a good team, but good grief.
Good
100%.
grief indeed.
Oh,
Good
wow.
grief.
Okay. I mean, what are we gonna?
Last one from Jeffrey Carlson, who I hope is Jenny Carlson's brother. At Carlson JOK, the Thunder seem to have the same level of talent as the Rockets, but Houston plays like a well-oiled machine, while the Thunder look like kids running in circles trying to get open so they can take a bad shot. What gives?
They are kids.
Well, they're nowhere near. There's not the same talent there at all.
I mean, at the top, they got some talent.
Yeah, the Thunder are very top heavy. Like
But,
if you went, position by position, there's going to be way more Rockets on that roster than there would be players.
Absolutely.
And that's sad.
Their bench is way better.
All right, that's it.
Alrighty.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening and watching on YouTube. Really appreciate that. The Thunder have the Suns coming up, and then followed by the Spurs. We'll have an aftershock for you after the Suns game. Hopefully it's not extremely sad like one listener thought. And then we'll follow back up with our end of the week pod on Sunday. Until then, Thunder up. How can we do this?
That's what happens when you let me be weird.